Chapter 21. You are listening at novelfull.audio. But in the midst of a cold winter for the industry, a top idol stepped forward regardless of his own safety and announced that he would hold a small-scale concert. That's right, this idol is none other than Asuka Ayanami. Facts have proved that taking risks, is the eternal pursuit of mankind. Even though we knew that we might be attacked by desperados, the tickets on the official website were still sold out in just a few minutes. Although most of the tickets are reserved by Sabbath, the speed is still exaggerated. The day of the concert, backstage. There is no way, this is the arrangement of the office, and this person cannot refuse it at all. Faria talked absent-mindedly with the fugitives, while helping Lan Guanghong tidy up her clothes. You can't tell her. If I hadn't been attacked, it would definitely arouse Phoenix's suspicion. Don't worry, I will find an opportunity to let her know the truth. After dealing with the inquiries over there, Faria hung up the phone with a bang, took 2 steps back, looked at the blue and red outfit, and nodded with satisfaction. Well, not bad, it smells internal. Blue light, red face, and black lines, this was their plan, to use Faria's idol status to attract the desperados, and then eliminate them in one fell swoop. However, there is a flaw in this plan, that is, the number of concert ticket sales systems is fixed, which means that in addition to Sabbath people, unknowing ordinary people still bought tickets, so they made some adjustments to the plan, that is, Lan Guanghong pretended to be a robber and kidnapped Faria. In this case, out of resentment towards the idol, the desperados would definitely give priority to chasing the two of them. At that time, it will be up to them to decide whether to flatten or round the cake. By the way, don't you think there's something missing? Lan Guanghong pointed at his face angrily. How can there be any robbers who kidnap openly and openly? Oh, that's right. Faria slapped her forehead and started searching in the makeup artist. Lan Guanghong had no choice but to follow along to find her. However, he searched for a long time but couldn't find anything to cover his face. Hello. Hearing Faria's voice, Lan Guanghong turned around subconsciously and saw a small black ball hitting him. He stretched out his hand to hold it, only to feel that his hand was soft and silky, with a little warmth. What is this? Ugh. As soon as he said the question, he saw Feidia inserting one of her dazzling white legs into high heels, and her other leg was also wearing semi-transparent black stockings. What is this thing in my hand? I can probably tell it from blue to red. He pursed his lips and unfolded the black ball in his hand. Sure enough, it was also a black thread. The corner of Lan Guanghong's mouth twitched. Isn't this good? Are there any other alternatives? Yes. Faria smiled sweetly, then bent her body slightly and put her hands on the outside of her legs, pretending to take off her idol's secret from her short skirt and use it as a mask for him. No, this will do. Lan Guanghong righteously rejected Faria's kindness and unfolded the thing in her hand and put it on her head. After all, there are many people who wear black stockings to do bad things, but wearing black silk stockings is pure perversion. He is a Kamen Rider, not a perverted Kamen, and there is no need to lose his reputation for such a trivial matter. TSK, you did it on purpose. Hey. Chapter 29, Revision, Sister of Revenge. As the concert began, Faria waved and stepped onto the stage with light steps. Behind the curtain, Lan Guanghong was wearing completely ill-fitting clothes, holding a phone in hand and paying attention to Abe's signals, always ready to take action. Feidia in human form has little fighting power, so he must be more vigilant to prevent the enemy from hurting her by unknown means. According to the known information, the opponent is a desperado type who can use electricity, so he needs to be especially careful on the stage. Gigi. The phone vibrated for a while, and the blue light and red heartstrings tightened and almost subconsciously slipped out. However, he immediately realized that this was just an ordinary vibration and not a signal for emergency action, and he let go of his hand on the curtain. Really, why are you sending a text message at this time? Lan Guanghong took a deep breath and opened the phone angrily. His vision was a little blurry, but he could barely make out the message above. Huh? Did you see Icky and a familiar face? What? Phoenix. Blu-ray and Red were speechless for a while. Boy, the 800-person concert didn't have a few real fans, leaving Sabbath and Phoenix to fill it up. It's right to think about it. After all, this desperado has attacked 3 idols. If someone holds a concert again, Phoenix will definitely guess that the Desperado will attack here. It's just that it's a bit outrageous to have so many people come in one go. Lan Guanghong thought so, but he didn't know that Phoenix was also helpless. After all, they are a professional department that deals with desperados. As a result, this time the enemy launched 3 attacks in a row without being eliminated, and they were under great pressure. After summarizing the reasons for the failure of previous operations, they believed that the combatants were wary because there were too many people at the scene, so they took action this time, spending huge sums of money and using their authority to book the remainder of the concert. Of votes, they planned to let the elite team members cooperate with Ikki to entangle the desperados after the desperados appeared, while the remaining people led the ordinary people to evacuate quickly, yet Sabbath thinks so too. So, without either party expecting it, the two organizations, one open and one secret, that were against the desperados met. What was even worse was that both parties pretended to be Faria's fanatical fans, ready to protect the people around them and escape as soon as the desperados arrived. Of course, maybe some of them were really her fans. At this moment, Abe was quickly sending messages to several captains nearby, asking them to restrain their men and pretend to be ordinary fans and not to have any abnormal behavior. In any case, Sabbath could not be exposed in such a funny way, otherwise, Karasaki would go crazy. Just when his fingers were about to rub sparks, the phone suddenly vibrated at a special frequency. Abe's eyes condensed. The target, here it comes. At the edge of the audience, a small girl walked forward slowly in silence. She was wearing a dress that was out of tune with the surrounding environment, as if she was not here to watch the people on the stage singing, but to perform on stage herself. The Sabbath members who were disguised as fans next to her quickly recognized that this person was the target of this operation, Miharu Akutani. She is the younger sister of Ayaka Akutani, who was once bewitched by the outlaws. Her biological sister Ayaka released the outlaws during her performance, ruining her idol career. Moreover, Ayaka, who later became a second-level outlaw, kidnapped her as a target for venting her anger, and threw her off the roof of a high-rise building after going berserk. How cruel. If Ikki hadn't saved her that day, her life would have come to an abrupt end. What made her feel most incredible was that even though such a thing had happened, her mother, who had always loved her, actually reconciled with Ayaka, and even seemed to have transferred all her love for herself to that person. She called her every day to ask about her well-being, and even cooked for her every day and visited Phoenix. Then, what about me? Was everything I had experienced and my shattered idol dream just ignored? They said they had to understand Ayaka and that they had ignored her too much in the past. How could they forgive her? Miharu, who deeply hated Ayaka and her betrayed mother, was eventually chosen by the desperate squid when she was mocked in front of her while watching a performance at the same time. This gave her the power of revenge. From then on, she made up her mind to destroy the things that she once loved the most and now hated the most. Be it idols or close relatives. Devil, we don't need that kind of thing. Miharu suddenly raised her head, her red eyes stared at the popular idol singing on the stage, and her hand was already holding the devil's seal that brought power. At this moment, something strange happened. Wahahaha, accompanied by wild laughter, a burly man with a silk fabric covering his head suddenly jumped out from behind the curtain. Everyone except Sabbath. Master, rape! The robber who suddenly appeared shouted loudly, then stretched out his hand to grab the idol's slender waist on the stage, carried it on his shoulders, and ran back to the backstage without a trace. The people of Phoenix and Miharu were all stunned. What an unexpected development. It was not until Faria's cry for help was faintly heard that the stunned people reacted. Damn it, how could we let this dirty guy get ahead? Miharu angrily took out the seal of sin and pressed it without hesitation. Eel. The scarlet seal appeared, and then a snake-like origami demon jumped out of the seal. The shape of this desperado is no different from that of ordinary first-level desperados, but its size is about 3 times larger than those first-level desperados in the past. Just moving forward caused great damage to the surroundings. Wow, it's so big, this is too exaggerated. Weiss drew a big circle with his hand, suddenly opened his palm and said, Hey Ikki, do you really want to fight such a big guy? You will be crushed. No way to fight. Ikki frowned and took out the Levis driver. But when he finished transforming, the giant desperado had already carried its host across the stage to chase the fleeing robber. Ikki looked around first and found that most people were fine, at most they were slightly injured. He was relieved and called Weiss to chase the desperado together. Outside the venue, Blue Light Red stopped not far away, and Faria, who had restored her demon body, also returned to his body. He did not delay and took out the diamond's belt to transform, posing a handsome pose and waiting for the desperado to catch up. Faria prepared the energy supply and protested, "Hey, you just hit my stomach and it hurts." "Sorry, I'll rub it for you when I get back." "Faria? Come to think of it," she asked again in confusion, "why didn't you take off the hood before transforming?" Lan Guanghong replied with an unchanged expression, "I forgot." "Oh, don't pretend, you actually like it, right?" Faria smiled mischievously, "How is it?" "My taste is great." "Hey, Wu Lu Sai, you forgot it." Lan Guanghong heard the movement behind him and immediately stopped bickering with Faria, waved his shawl and turned around, facing the approaching desperado and waved his hand provocatively. Count your black sins. Chapter 30, Revised, Diamond's Winged Horn Violent Alliance. Roar. The huge desperado raised his body and pressed down on Lan Guanghong with his whole body weight. Lan Guanghong was not afraid at all. He took out the sin seal in a flash and stamped it on the belt panel, then pushed it with both hands. Chapter 22. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Demo's finish. Violent energy poured into his right foot, he turned around and raised his leg, and the kick filled with golden energy hit the incoming desperado hard. Boom. With the roar of explosions, the incoming desperados were kicked back and flew back, with electric light all over their bodies. Electric eel. Lan Guanghong slowly retracted her feet and raised her eyebrows slightly. It's a bit strange. When the killer kick hit the opponent just now, Lan Guanghong didn't feel like the kick hit the opponent. Instead, it felt as if it was kicked on cotton. The performance of the desperado also confirmed Lan Guanghong's conjecture. Faced with this killer that even the second-level desperado couldn't bear, it only howled twice before turning over from the ground and getting up as if nothing happened. This desperado is not normal. Lan Guanghong didn't dare to be careless, and waved his hands in a fighting stance toward the desperados. He needs to be serious. On the other side, Levis, who was chasing behind, was blocked by a familiar enemy. Damn it! It's you again. Ikki angrily raised his axe gun and shot at the Black Knight blocking the road. Don't block me, go away. Humph Mirage chuckled disdainfully, then returned the blade to its place and replaced it with another sin mark, Jackal. Kamen Rider Evil, Jackal. Evil, who had put on the Jackal's sin seal, easily cut off Ikki's shot, then quickly rushed towards Ikki and Weiss with his sword. Ha! Lan Guanghong exhaled deeply and hit the desperado on the head with a powerful and heavy punch, but the enemy just took 2 steps back, shook his head and rushed towards him again like a demon. Are vital attacks also ineffective? What a troublesome guy. Lan Guanghong dodged the desperado's attack and angrily shouted to the Phoenix team in Omo not far away, "Hey, why are you just watching? How to deal with desperados? It's your job. Hurry up and think of a solution for me." The leader of the squad, Tian Yuan, was stunned when he heard this. He raised his small pistol in embarrassment and fired 2 shots from the super desperado, Blue Light Red. Ahem, Levis will be here for support soon. Just as he was talking, Tian Yuan suddenly opened his eyes wide and reminded loudly, "Watch the back." In fact, Tian Yuan didn't need to remind him. Lan Guanghong had already sensed the sneak attack from behind. He immediately took out the sin seal without hesitation, triggered the transformation mechanism and stamped it on his belt again. Change beetle. Call out. The umbrella-shaped weapon passed over Lan Guanghong's body, but unfortunately, all it hit was an afterimage. The sneak attack failed. Orudigar inserted the weapon into the ground without hesitation. In an instant, a large amount of black mist rose up from the ground, wrapping his body in it. He himself quickly disappeared under the cover of the black mist. Lan Guanghong, who originally wanted to mess with him again, had to give up the idea when he saw this. But you did remind me. The enemy can remove the force of the impact. and energy attacks can also be discharged through electric discharge. What about the slashing attack? As for the fact that I don't have anything with me that can be used to slash, this is not a problem at all. He doesn't have it, the lovely nephews have it. After making up his mind, Lan Guanghong smacked his palm, raised his feet and ran towards Ikki. At this moment, Ikki is still entangled with Mirage. In order to cope with the evil jackal's speed, Ikki now used the Sin Seal of the pterodactyl to equal his opponent in terms of speed. It is a pity that the winged dragon Sin Seal requires the cooperation of Ikki and Weiss to exert its power. Now that Weiss has turned into an aircraft, he is floating in mid-air and cannot intervene, so Ikki can only rely on Ikki to fight the enemy alone. From the perspective of Phoenix next to him, he could only see two lights of red and black colliding on the ground, and each collision would erupt into a ball of sparks. However, Lan Guanghong, who arrived, could clearly see that Ikki was at a disadvantage. He was the one who was hit with sparks every time. If it hadn't been for the fact that Ikki's physical fitness had not greatly improved during this period of training, he would have been lying on the ground with his mouth open and eyes closed at this moment. This can't be blamed on him. It's really Evil's style of play, which is a bit too ungrateful. Jackal Darkness finish. Mirage pressed the trigger to activate a sure kill, then went up and slashed at Ikki, then pulled away and pressed the trigger again. Blu-ray red? Is this guy's killer CD so short? Fortunately, his damage was quite serious. Mirage, who was playing with Ikki, suddenly felt a gust of evil wind coming from behind Mirage. At the critical moment, he turned around and used his special move to slash Ikki behind him. However, the next moment, he only felt numbness in his wrist, and the hand holding the sword involuntarily loosened some strength. Mirage? Where is my sword? No, my evil sword is so big. After grabbing Mirage's weapon, Lan Guanghong ran to Ikki without stopping, reached out and pulled out the two sin marks hanging on his belt and sighed. Ikki. The two brothers who lost their Sin Seal were forced to release their transformation at the same time. Mirage reacted very quickly. The moment the transformation was released, he took out the bat Sin Seal and stamped it on the ground. A large number of bats appeared, covering him and escaping the scene, avoiding the tragedy of exposing his identity. Ikki stared blankly at his waist, not knowing what expression to show. Really? When other knights are in trouble, someone will always send them props in time. Why can't I have this treatment? Blue Light Red returned to his battlefield and complained dissatisfiedly after cancelling the Rhinoceros Beetle mode. I also want someone to shout, please use this. Philia, so, if no one gives it to you, you just rob it? TSK, how can you call it robbing when it's a family matter? Blue Light Red held Evil's sword in one hand and stamped the three Sin Seals borrowed from Ikki on the panel of his belt with the other hand. Terra, Pterosaur, Tricera, Triceratops, Rex, Tyrannosaurus. Ah-oh! Accompanied by his roar, huge pterosaur wings appeared behind the diamond's armor, and sharp horns of Triceratops extended from his shoulders and chest, and his legs turned into thick Tyrannosaurus legs. After the gene mixture, diamonds grew to nearly 3 meters tall, and a violent momentum from the ancient Cretaceous period gushed out. Even the special desperado who had been attacking frantically was frightened and dared only lie on the ground and growl cautiously. Poof to Tyranno, Zorus, Blue Light Red dubbed a voice by himself, and then rushed towards the desperado with Evil's long sword. Go to hell. Chapter 31, Revised, Igarashi's Meal. With a sharp blade in hand, Blue Light Red's attack on the desperado was indeed much smoother. The giant wings of the pterosaur gene fanned up a strong wind, and the desperado could hardly keep his balance while flying. Blue Light Red took the opportunity to attack, and Evil's long sword easily left countless wounds on the opponent, making the opponent scream. Although the driver did not match the sword's ultimate move, after superimposing the Sin Seals of 3 powerful Cretaceous creatures, Blue Light Red had many ways to deal with the enemy in front of him, and he chose the most ruthless one among them. Bang! He raised his leg and kicked the desperado, causing him to look up. Blue Light Red pushed his belt and launched a joint kill, Demon's Requiem. Blue Light Red raised his sword to the sky, aiming at the desperado's head. My drill can break through the sky. The wings of the pterosaur rolled up his body to form a drill, and with the impact of the Triceratops and the destructive power of the Tyrannosaurus, the power of the Trinity crashed into the Desperado. Go to hell, bang. The drill that soared into the sky crashed into the Desperado's body, and its body immediately froze. The next moment, the drill broke through its body and broke out from the other side. The Desperado's body shook twice, and then fell down with a bang. Before it landed, it ignited a raging flame and burned into debris all over the sky. Ah! Not far away, Miharu saw her demon being defeated and let out a desperate wail, then rolled her eyes and slowly fell down. Ikki, who came rushing over, hugged her in a hurry. He looked at Miharu's face with extremely complicated feelings. We are all family, why did it become like this? At this moment, he remembered what Ayaka had said to him. Ikki, not all family members live in harmony. No, it won't happen. Ikki shook his head suddenly. It's all the fault of the outlaws. Damn outlaws, you actually treated Ayaka's family like this. I will never let you go. Blue light red. No matter how you look at it, it must be the education problem of the mother of the Okadani family. Forget it. Anyway, their family is likely to reunite in Phoenix, and what will happen in the future has nothing to do with him. Then next blue light red raised the evil sword and reached out to tap it a few times. It's time to solve your problem. In the evening, the happy bathhouse. Today's dinner is seafood udon noodles, and the person who cooks is the next generation of super spicy curry inheritor, Igarashi Sakura. Ha, ah. Slurp. Delicious. Sakura's cooking skills are going to surpass Mom's. Yuki covered her mouth and praised with a smile. No, I'm still far from Mom's. Sakura scratched her head embarrassedly. She can be very tough in front of other people, even her father and brother, but she can't be tough in front of Yuki. In a way, this also reflects Yuki's strength in education. Compared with the mother of the Tokagaya family who can raise 2 daughters to become desperados, it can be said that she is so high that she can drink coffee directly on Mars. As for the other one, naturally, she is so low that she sinks to the center of the earth and becomes neighbors with a certain sadistic person. Speaking of which, have you been working overtime too frequently in your sophomore year recently? I always feel that you haven't eaten with us for a long time. Yuantai asked in confusion. The heir is the captain of Phoenix, so it's normal for him to be busy to protect the safety of the people. Ahaha, that's true, but I always feel that this child has changed a lot. As the family was chatting, there was a swoosh sound of the door being opened outside, followed by hurried and familiar footsteps. The people eating immediately recognized that the heir had returned. Chapter 23. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Yuenta, who was sitting by the door, opened the restaurant door and shouted to the people outside, "Hey, you're back, Dare. You're back just in time, wash your hands and come to eat." No. Mirage, who occupied Dare's body, said impatiently and went into Dare's room without looking back. Yuenta, he turned around, with a wronged look on his face, and forced a smile. It seems that Dare has been under a lot of pressure recently. It's a pity that such delicious udon noodles are gone. Sakura, who was eating noodles silently, heard the words and her eyes lit up. Just then, there was another clatter sound of the door opening outside. Shinmi listened with her ears tilted and smiled. Wow, it seems that it won't be wasted. Sakura's eyes quickly dimmed, and she continued to eat noodles without saying a word. Huh. There are noodles to eat. It seems that I came at the right time. Lan Guanghong took Dare's seat without hesitation and lifted the lid of the casserole in front of him. I'm starting. Slurp slurp. In less than 2 minutes, the hot udon noodles were sucked into the blue-red storm, leaving not a drop of soup. Thank you for the hospitality. Blue-red clasped his hands in thanks, and asked, Is Daiji back? Yes, I'm in his room. Do you have anything to do with him? Yes, it's just a little thing. Blue-red used his index finger and thumb to pinch out a universe on his fingertips, indicating that it was just a tiny thing. He walked out of the restaurant, stopped suddenly after a few steps, and turned back. Xiaoying, can I ask you for a favor? Hey, to me? What's the matter? In Daiji's room, Mirage tapped his chin in annoyance. The reason was that his evil sword was not only a weapon, but also a part of the driver. Without this part, he could not transform now, and the inability to transform meant that he had no power to deal with Ikki, unless he poisoned the Igarashi family as Daiji. However, this despicable method was not his style, and he would not do it even if he failed. Damn you, you actually robbed my driver, how despicable. Mirage punched the floor angrily. You'd better not show up in front of me, otherwise, A strong and irritating smell drifted into the room from the crack of the door. Mirage. He pushed open the door and saw a plate of curry rice with extra fried dumplings placed at the door. Sniffing the smell, yes, it was Sakura's handiwork. Looking at this plate of curry, a strange emotion surged in Mirage's heart. It seems that it's not bad to survive as a sophomore like this. No, wake up. He shook his head and told himself in his heart, don't be stupid, this is a concern for the sophomore, not for me. Humph. Who wants to eat this thing? Mirage closed the door angrily. A few seconds later, the door quietly opened a gap, and then an arm stretched out, holding the curry rice and whoosh back. Lan Guanghong, who was hiding in the corner, saw this scene and couldn't help but curl his lips. TSK, these days, even demons are arrogant. Taking out his mobile phone, Lan Guanghong clicked the stopwatch to start the countdown. Countdown, 3, 2, 1. When the time was up, Lan Guanghong stepped out without hesitation and opened the door of the second year's room with a whoosh. Inside the room, it was Mirage who was lying on the ground, his face buried in the curry plate and unconscious. Sorry, little nephew. Lan Guanghong apologized insincerely, then fumbled in his pants for a while, took out a black thing and came over. Wait, you will recover soon. Chapter 32, Revised, Black and White Conversion. Rolling Vistamp is the name of the printed roller-shaped sin seal in Lan Guanghong's hand. According to Karasaki, this sin seal has the effect of forcibly converting the status of demons and humans, which should allow the second year to come back. Should? Yes, because there is no way to conduct clinical trials, so this effect can only be achieved in theory. That's what he said at the time, after confirming that it would not harm the human body and at most there would be some harmless side effects. Lan Guanghong finally decided to arrange it for his little nephew. Even if there are some sequelae, it is much better than being imprisoned in his own body. It's coming. Lan Guanghong turned the roller to start it, and snapped it on the back of the fainted Mirage. Instantly, the black energy flowed out from under Mirage and quickly surged up in the opposite direction, wrapping up the body of Dare. Lan Guanghong swallowed nervously, his eyes fixed on the surging ink pool. Not long after, the thick ink quickly retracted, revealing Dare, but his appearance did not change at all, as if nothing had happened. After waiting for a while, seeing that the other party still showed no signs of activity, Lan Guanghong carefully reached out and poked. Hey, Dare, are you okay? Dare, wake up, I'm Shafulin. Can you tell me a name? Who is Shafulin? Lan Guanghong scratched his head, feeling a little itchy inside, as if something engraved in his DNA was gradually reviving. At this time, Dare woke up with a low moan, and saw a plate full of dark brown residue. Dare. Before he could react, a strong burning sensation suddenly hit him, burning his throat and making his mouth numb. The worst part is the stomach, which feels like a phoenix has been stuffed into it, making the person feel uncomfortable all over. Spicy. So spicy. It's so spicy. The show rubbed his face with both hands at a loss, but ended up smearing the sauce evenly on his face. Even his eyes were not spared. Sophomore. Ah! The tragic wailing instantly alarmed everyone at home, and after a while, Yukimi and Genta were the first to appear at the door. What's wrong with sophomore year? Yukimi saw the miserable situation of sophomore year and immediately realized that he was being hurt. He hurriedly shouted to Genta, "Dad, water and milk." Oh! Genta hurriedly threw him downstairs, and after a while he and Ikki came over with a basin of water and several large boxes of milk. after washing his face and drinking 2 large cartons of milk, the sophomore exhaled a long breath and finally recovered. Ah, I almost thought I was going to die. Idiot sophomore. If you can't eat, don't hold on, I won't blame you. Sakura, who was late, put a bottle of stomach medicine on the table. Remember to take 2 pills later, the effect is quite good. Ah, thank you, Sakura. The sophomore is surprised that his usually careless sister is so attentive this time. This is very un-Sakura. On the other hand, Lan Guanghong looked at the bit of brown sauce remaining at the corner of Sakura's mouth, squinted her eyes and showed an evil smile. Wow, I secretly ate alone. It's a pity that there are still things to do today, so I will keep this grudge in mind for now. After a while of tossing, Lan Guanghong called the 2 brothers into the courtyard. He placed the sin seal and dual-sided driver weapons that he took from Ikki in front of the 2 of them. I'll give this back to you. Ikki, sophomore. Why are you at Master's place? Ikki blinked, then thought of something, and stared at Lan Guanghong with wide eyes. Could it be that Master, are you the Kamen Rider? Yes, I am Kamen Rider Diamonds. Lan Guanghong nodded and admitted with a smile. Ikki suddenly realized, I see, no wonder Mom wants you to be my master. But this. Pointing at the evil sword, Ikki looked confused. However, the next moment, the sophomore took away the sword and restored it to its folded form and inserted it back into the double-sided drive. Ikki. His shock at this moment was even stronger than when he learned that Lan Guanghong was a knight. Sophomore, you are the Black Knight. It's not the sophomore, that knight is his demon, Mirage. Lan Guanghong explained for the sophomore. Next, he explained the relationship between Daiso and Mirage in detail, basically repeating Karasaki's explanation to them again. Ah, so it turns out that the one who lived with us a few days ago was a Mirage. I asked you why the sophomore year suddenly became weird. The sophomore glared at this idiot old man resentfully and said nothing. But don't worry, I have sealed the Mirage, and he will not come out to be a monster in the future. Lan Guanghong held up the roller sin seal with a confident face, but at this moment, the sophomore raised his hand with a strange look on his face. Well, what's going on in sophomore year? Actually, I can hear the Mirage. Oh. What did he say? He told me not to believe you and called you despicable. Blue light red. The seal is not thorough enough. Maybe this is the side effect Karasaki mentioned. This can't go on like this. Sophomore. Holding sophomore's shoulders with both hands, Lan Guanghong stared at him seriously. Your will is too weak. If this continues, sooner or later the Mirage will come back. In order to prevent my body from being taken over again, from now on, let's come to training with your brother. Sophomore, okay. In the not-so-distant ancient Eastern country, there is a saying that goes, every day is like a year. My sophomore year has never understood the meaning of this sentence so deeply, now he regrets it very much. He regrets that he agreed too readily and didn't leave any room for himself. No, not anymore. Leaning on the crutches originally used by Ikki, the sophomore raised his hands tremblingly. Master, I can't bear it anymore. It's really useless. Weiss persisted for more than 2 hours before begging for mercy. Lan Guanghong shook his head with his hands on his hips, expressing his dissatisfaction with the physical ability of his nephew and disciple. Ikki, Weiss was obviously thrown by you for 2 hours, and finally cried and disappeared. Okay. Chapter 24. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. I'm afraid that in his eyes, you are the real devil. Fragments from the initial special training flashed through Ikki's mind. At that time, he was still training with Weiss. Later, because Weiss couldn't stand the blue light red training method, he ran away directly after materializing, so he finally became he was the only one trained. However, with the sophomore accompanying him these days, his mood has improved a lot during training. When he came back to his senses, he saw the sophomore suddenly let go of the crutches, then took out the duplex drive and put it on his waist. Oh. Ikki's eyes lit up. Have you finally made up your mind? Come on, sophomore year. The heir closed his eyes and said silently in his heart, my duty is to protect the people and prevent them from suffering the suffering caused by the devil. So, I will never lose to the devil." That he opened his eyes suddenly. Although his body was exhausted, his eyes were full of determination. Convert to Black and White, Henshin, Kamen Rider, Live. Chapter 33, Revision, Hot Spring Strategy. The Happy Bathhouse is not open today because the Igarashi family was invited by Blu-ray Red to go to the Hot Spring Hotel to rest and relax for a few days. Although the ordinary life already makes this family feel happy, they will naturally not refuse the opportunity to enjoy this kind of life. The scenery is beautiful on a sunny day. The red flowers are green grass. The van was driving on a mountain bridge. The two parents sitting in the front seat looked at the scenery outside the window, and they were as excited as children. "This is Soa Gorge. Ah, it's Tanagawa Dake. Where are you?" "Hooray, it's right there." In stark contrast to the two chattering away, there were three men sitting in the last row, Lan Guanghong, Ikki, and De Air all sat with their arms crossed and serious expressions on their faces. At first glance, they thought they were three brothers. "Hey, sophomore." Lan Guanghong suddenly called sophomore, and after the other party turned his head, he pointed at his chin. "Oh." The sophomore reached out his hand knowingly and tapped his chin lightly with his index finger. "Yes, that's it." At this time, Ikki, who was sitting on the other side, turned around and asked uneasily, "Master, is this really okay? I've told you so many times, just treat it as an ordinary hot spring trip, absolutely no problem." After answering again, Lan Guanghong impatiently reached out and pinched Ikki's cheek and pulled it to both sides. "Don't be so grimacing, come on, smile." "No, don't, master." "Huh." Sakura, who heard the conversation in the back row, turned around suspiciously and asked, "What are you talking about? What's okay?" "Nothing." The three said in unison, "Sakura. Very suspicious." Soon after, the van drove into the destination of this trip, the large hot spring hotel. Source: this is a very famous local leisure resort. It adopts a Japanese-style layout as a whole. The gentle lighting and the faint scent of incense in the air make this building full of classical and elegant atmosphere. The group entered the lobby with their luggage and received a warm welcome from the manager. The family, immersed in the atmosphere of the hotel, did not realize that the landlady who led other guests, the lobby manager behind the counter, and the workers who helped carry the gifts were all faces they had seen before. That's right, it's the three cadres of the outlaws. And it's not just them. 80% of the people in the entire hotel are desperados, and there are also many desperados who have stopped at the first level. This time, they came out in full force. At the front desk, Ortega, disguised as the lobby manager, gave Lan Guanghong a secret look. Lan Guanghong glanced at him and nodded slightly, indicating that everything was going well. After getting the signal, Ortega held his eyes with one hand and held them up, showing a wicked smile. 2 days ago, he fled to the bases. Damn Kamen Rider. Ruined our business again. Frio slammed the table angrily, venting his inner dissatisfaction. Kalila and Ortega also looked annoyed, which showed that they had indeed endured the Kamen Rider to the extreme. If Kamen Rider comes to disrupt the situation every time he finds a suitable candidate for sacrifice, will Master Keith be resurrected? "Hey, Mephistopheles, do you have any news over there?" Lan Guanghong was stunned for a moment when asked, then shook his head and said, "Levi's side is still the same. As for the mysterious Timmons, unfortunately, I haven't found any clues so far." "Then take care of Levis first." The outlaws were also very ruthless this time, and no matter what, they would kill one of them first. Any persuasion at this time would definitely arouse suspicion. Blue Light rolled his red eyes and decided to take advantage of the situation and lure the snake out of its hole. "I agree, but we can't attack by force, otherwise not only will Timmons come, but Mirage will also most likely attack us first, which would be bad." Ortega nodded in agreement. "Indeed, do you have any good ideas?" "Not really a good idea, just an immature idea." Although it is said that he is immature, Lan Guanghong looks confident at the moment, which shows that he is very confident in his plan. "I remember there is a hot spring hotel in our property. We can use it to set up a trap and let the desperados disguise themselves as employees to lurk inside. Then I will use my identity as a relative to lure the Igarashi family there. Here, he stood up, made a circle with his hands, and continued to explain with a gesture of sweeping the world. After they relax, we will cut off the signal, and then we will rush out suddenly and surround them. By then, even if they are not completely wiped out, they will inevitably suffer heavy casualties. Hehehe. Orutka, who has always been a think tank, thought for a while. His eyes gradually brightened. Great, this way we can get rid of Levis and Mirage as a hidden danger at one time, and without the signal they can't find reinforcements. Even if Diamonds reacts, it will be too late. Not only that, I can also pretend to cooperate with Mirage, saying that I will provide him with an opportunity to take action, and see if I can let them bully others first. Okay, the three cadres immediately decided, let's do it. One day ago, happy bathhouse. That's what happened. In order to prevent the desperate people from jumping off the wall, I can only think of this method. Lan Guanghong told everything that happened in the desperate people's base yesterday, and then looked at the brothers Yukimi and Igarashi with burning eyes, and asked, what do you think? Do you want to do it? No. The two brothers objected in unison. It's too dangerous, I can't. Do it. Yukimi's voice was very low, but he immediately retorted what the two brothers were going to say next. Mom, it's too dangerous. It's okay, I believe that Guanghong and you will definitely protect us. Yukimi smiled at Lan Guanghong and said, right? Well, don't worry, bet on Kadota's life, and the desperate people will never hurt you at all. Dodgy. Why bet on Kadota-san's life? Don't worry about those details. Lan Guanghong waved his hand perfunctorily. Dodgy. Time goes back to the present. Hot Spring Hotel. Source, Lan Guanghong, with a white towel on his head, sat in the hot spring, and the rising hot air steamed his skin pink. Icky on the opposite side was a little confused. Why did you really take a hot spring bath? Is Mom and the others okay? It's okay, their target is you. Yukimi and Sakura will be fine. Waving his hand to signal Icky to calm down, Lan Guanghong pursed his lips at Daiji and continued, also, don't forget what your brother does for a living. Icky turned his head to look at his brother, and Daiji scratched his head, with an awkward smile on his face. Yes, he reported what was going to happen today to Phoenix. Just now, he took a quick look in the lobby and confirmed that the so-called guests were actually all colleagues. If it weren't for the fact that he often appeared on TV in the past, I'm afraid even the former Commander Kadota would not be absent. After all, it's rare today that the backbone of the desperate people gathered here. Even the three cadres are here. If such an opportunity is not seized firmly, then Commander Wakabayashi should bow and apologize. Well, let's just enjoy it now. Lan Guanghong stretched and immersed his whole body in the hot spring. Yuan Tai, who had no idea what was going on, was confused. What are you talking about? Are you hiding something from me? As he said that, he was about to stand up. Lan Guanghong next to him immediately glared. Huh? Pa. Yuan Tai immediately sat back in the water very quickly. For some reason, when he was glared at by Lan Guanghong, he had a very bad premonition, and his abdomen ached slightly, as if he had been punched. Chapter 34, Revised. Oh no, Mephisto.I. In the dim lounge, Lan Guanghong met with three cadres and reported the combat situation. Tomorrow the Igarashi family will hold a celebration party by the pool. I have persuaded Mirage to take action at that time. Lan Guanghong showed the same healthy smile as the actor. When the two brothers are almost done fighting, it's time for us to take action. Hey, you did a good job. Aguilera smiled like an innocent young girl, reaching out to touch Lan Guanghong's head to show encouragement, but Lan Guanghong, who knew the nature of this demon queen, would not be tempted by this sweet smile. She immediately took a step back and pulled Frio over to block in front of her. Guard vent. Snap. Aguilera's white and tender little hand slapped Frio's head and subconsciously stroked it twice, and the latter immediately showed a look of enjoyment. Ah, Master Aguilera. Aguilera. Snap. Ah, it hurts. Frio, who was slapped and flew away, lay on the ground, covered his red face and turned back to ask aggrievedly, Aguilera-sama, why? No reason. Aguilera clapped his hands and sat on the sofa, with a smile on his face again. It's really exciting. The Igarashi family is about to be finished. A peaceful night passed. Early the next morning, Yukimi was blindfolded and led by her 3 children to the swimming pool. What's going on? Hee, surprise. Sakura helped Yukimi take off the blindfold and let her see the scene in front of her. Husband, Genta, who combed his hair like an adult and wore a handsome suit, walked towards her with a bouquet of flowers in his hand. In a trance, Yukimi felt that she seemed to have returned to the scene of her wedding 30 years ago. Genta smiled gently and handed the bouquet to her. Wife, thank you for everything you have done for us. Hubby. Xingshi took the bouquet with a happy face. Having you is also my happiness. Chapter 25. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The family gathered together happily. The 2 cadres disguised as employees pulled the banner, and the boss's wife Aguilera played the role of a flower girl and scattered flowers on the side. When everyone was about to take a family photo, the atmosphere in the field reached its peak. Well. I always feel that Yuantai is a little pitiful. Lan Guanghong touched his chin, looking at his smile from the heart. It can be seen that Yuantai really attaches great importance to this trip. Unfortunately, this trip is actually a game between knights and desperados, and it is destined not to be as perfect as he thought. Alas, I will give him a chance to make up for it in the future. Anyway, there is still plenty of time. Hey, everyone, take a photo. Lan Guanghong took the camera and said the agreed code. Hearing this, Daer, who was originally smiling happily, immediately changed his face and showed a very unfamiliar gloomy face. Finally waited for this moment, as he said, Daer suddenly grabbed Ihue's collar and pulled him over, then punched Ihue in the chest and knocked him to the ground. The family members were all stunned by this sudden change. Yuenta watched Ikki recover from the fall and turned to ask, Daijitsu, what are you doing? Hee. Daiji smiled evilly and took out the double-sided driver and put it on his waist, and took out the bat sin seal and pressed it. Bat. I've had enough of this boring family game. He put the sin seal on the belt, and the belt immediately made a dynamic sound effect. Confirmed. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Daijitsu. Shuji pretended to be afraid and retreated, but in fact he pulled Yuenta and Sakura away from the place where the desperate people were. The 3 cadres were attracted by the acting skills of the 2 brothers, and ignored Yuji's little movements, just watching the upcoming brotherly friendship with relish. Lan Guanghong also mixed in. He stood behind and silently held the beetle sin seal in his hand. His eyes wandered over the backs of the 3 people in front of him, thinking about who to start with later. Well, it's you scumbag. At this moment, Daiji has put the sin seal into his belt, and Ikki has also stood up and put the Levi's driver on his waist. The 2 brothers are ready to transform. The next moment. Henshin. X2, Kamen Rider Revice. Kamen Rider Live. Very good, seeing Kamen Rider live, which is very different from evil transformed by Mirage. The cadres quickly realized that something was wrong. However, it was too late to realize the problem now. Brother. Oh. And the 2 brothers and Whis raised their guns at the same time and pulled the trigger continuously towards the desperate crowd. No, it's a trap. Frio yelled, and took the opportunity to throw Aguilera next to him to avoid it. Ortega also wanted to hide, but as soon as he jumped out, he was pulled back by blue light red and blocked in front of him. Squid. Defense descends, and scores twice. Puff, puff, puff. Caught off guard, Ortega took several shots in human form, endured the severe pain, took out the sin seal and transformed into a demon, and finally broke free from Blue-Red's clutches. Mephisto, you bastard. Sorry, I couldn't help it. Blue-Red pointed at the knight who had stopped shooting and rushed over and said, Senior, the situation is urgent now, let's deal with the matter at hand first. Humph. Ortega snorted angrily, but he also knew the priorities, and went to meet the Igarashi brothers with the transformed Frio. Very good, I'll come too. Blue-Red clenched his fists and rushed out with the two, then, Kawagata. Kamen Rider Demons, Beetle. The voice from behind made the two desperado cadres stop abruptly. Ortega, Frio. The two demons turned around in a hurry, but what they faced was Diamond's fist as big as a casserole. Bang! X2. Without any intention, the two demons were beaten back by Diamond's. If there were only 3 of them on the battlefield, it would be nothing, but now, there are a pair of Kamen Rider brothers from the Igarashi family behind them. Good opportunity. The two brothers immediately used their special skills to hit Ortega and Frio hard from behind, knocking them to the ground and rolling. Well done, Ikki, Daisuke. Blue Light Red praised them with a thumbs up. On the other hand, the cadres who saw this scene were almost vomiting blood in anger. Oh, no, Mephisto. Frio, who was powerless and furious, pounded the ground. Did you lie to us? No. Lan Guanghong explained flawlessly, Senior Frio, the name Mephisto itself means lying. Look, I told you from the beginning that I was lying, but you were too culturally illiterate to see it. How can you blame me, Frio? Orutka, Puff. Chapter 35, Revised. The runaway wolf, the Kamen Rider who had attacked him and seriously injured him had actually been hiding under his nose. This shocking fact caused Ortka to suffer tons of psychological trauma. This injury was even more severe than the physical injury, so much so that he couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of ink. It hurts so much. How did Aguilera and Frio confirm that this guy was of the same kind? If it weren't for the two men's certainty, how could he, the IQ leader of the desperate group and the insider behind the scenes, be played like a clown? Diamonds, you despicable guy! Orutka climbed up angrily and roared as he inserted his weapon into the ground. In an instant, a large amount of thick ink poured into the ground, generating countless tentacles dancing on the ground, turning the originally beautiful scenery into a hell map that made people's Saiyan value drop wildly. These tentacles divided the battlefield into 2 pieces. Ikki and Daiji fought with Frio while dealing with the harassment of the tentacles. As for Orutka, he took the initiative to meet the Blue Light Red. I will never forgive you. The squid said coldly, and then his whole body turned into thick ink and sank into the ground. The ink on the ground immediately surged and rolled like boiling water, and the squid desperado seemed to be integrated with the ground, and could jump out from anywhere at any time to attack. However, Lan Guanghong just smiled disdainfully. Although he didn't stay with the desperado for a long time, he knew the 3 cadres. Simply put, Aguilera is a Kifu fanatic, Frio is a brute force licker, and Orutka, a scumbag and cowardly old coin. Judging from this guy's daily performance, he is definitely an egoist who prioritizes preserving himself in everything. He doesn't believe that such a person would fight for his 2 companions, Aguilera and Frio, so there is only one answer. At present, this scene that took a lot of energy to set up is actually just a decoy. The real purpose of this guy is to escape under the cover of this environment. Humph, I have seen through your tricks. Lan Guanghong ignored the floating tentacles around him, flapped his wings and flew into the air, and a pair of compound eyes searched the ground carefully. Soon, he found a not-so-conspicuous ink stain hiding in the shadow under a tree not far away. I found you. Pushing both sides of the belt with both hands, Blue Light Red directly launched a special move, and his feet brought out huge insect pincers to hit the ink stain. Denman's finish. Boom! The fire spread along with the smoke and dust, covering everyone's sight, and only a scream came from the smoke and dust. However, the tentacles that gradually dispersed by the swimming pool had already explained the outcome of this battle. As expected of Master Dayer, we can't lose. Ikki was full of fighting spirit, took out the pterosaur Sin Seal and switched to the high-speed Fei's pterosaur form. Yes, brother. Dayer also took out the jackal Sin Seal to replace the bat, ready to use high speed to cooperate with Ikki, Weiss, who turned into a flying vehicle. Hey, too cunning. Whether it's transformation or partner, I was the first one to come. No way to race. Ikki and Daiji launched their ultimate moves at the same time, rushing towards Frio at a speed that could not be seen by the naked eye. For a moment, countless sparks burst out from the wolf-shaped desperado, and electric arcs like little snakes appeared on the wounds. The intense pain made Frio half kneel on the ground, but his inner obsession made him hold on without losing consciousness to cancel the devil's transformation. Aguilera-sama. He looked at the voice of the red dress in the corridor and murmured in a low voice, that was the goddess who saved him from collapse. No matter what, he must protect her today. That a burst of red flames suddenly burst out from Frio's body, and the two brothers who were very close were caught off guard and were instantly bounced away, bang. Ikki, who hit a tree from behind, screamed in pain, and looked at the ornaments on Frio's body bursting, with scarlet claws, and exclaimed, "What's going on?" Frio, who changed again, screamed, and the high temperature of his body automatically formed a huge fireball and sprayed it around. One of the fireballs hit the hotel, and an explosion no less than a missile hit occurred immediately. Run away. Dayer immediately judged that Frio's current state was abnormal, and the next second he raised his hand to shoot him. As a third-level demon, he must have terrifying combat power after running away, and he might even reach the theoretical fourth-level demon. Dayer knew this very well, but he still decided to shoot resolutely. This shot was to attract his attention, so that he would not continue to attack randomly and affect more Phoenix members who were fighting with ordinary desperate believers in the room. As for his own safety, it's too late to think about that now. Chapter 26. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The bullet was fired, hitting the head of Frio, who was roaring like a wild beast after the transformation. The opponent turned his head as he thought, but at this moment, a figure blocked him. Master. Yeah. Blue Light Red turned his head and nodded to him. You did a good job. Go find Aguilera, leave this to me. Okay, Master, be careful, this guy is very strong. Don't worry, no matter how strong the enemy is, Master is always above him. Before he finished speaking, Blue Light Red took a step and rushed towards the wolf-shaped desperado who was running away. The next moment, a red light flashed, and he flew back at a faster speed, and his feet close to the ground were worn out of 2 gullies. Sophomore. Blue Light Red. This slap in the face came a little faster. Damn, I didn't expect this guy to be so fast after transformation. That he shook his hand and took out the Beetle Sin Seal to switch modes. Kabuto. Change Beetle. Switch to the Rhinoceros Beetle mode, which also has super high speed, and Blue Light Red attacks again, but after the change, Frio's combat power exceeded his imagination. Not only was his speed comparable to his, but his explosive power even had a tendency to overwhelm him, and the heat flow from the opponent's body, like magma, also brought a lot of trouble. Every time he hit it, the armor would melt a little after the collision. This won't work. Either the armor will not hold up first, or Faria will be squeezed out first. Just as Blue Light Red was fighting the enemy and considering whether to turn into Black Sun, he noticed that Frio suddenly took back the fireball that was originally ready to be launched, and this action also caused the flames on his body to become brighter. Blue Light Red immediately glanced back, and then his eyes lit up. It was Ikki and Daiji who brought Aguilera. Tied up and captured alive. Aguilera-sama. Frio roared, and the flames on his body rioted, as if they were about to explode in the next moment. At this time, he seemed to have regained a little consciousness. No, hurt. Accompanied by hysterical howling, Frio gathered all his strength in his legs, then jumped up suddenly, and the powerful force made the ground dent. A few seconds later, there was a loud boom in the sky, and a violent explosion occurred. Endless flames seemed to dye the sky red, and then the burning demon fragments fell from the sky like raindrops. Lan Guanghong hurriedly took advantage of the last bit of acceleration to transfer the people of the Igarashi family to a safe place. You can do this for the goddess in your heart. Although you are an enemy, Frio, I respect you as a man. Lan Guanghong, who had lifted the transformation, raised his thumb to the sky. Just when he turned around, he frowned, thinking that he seemed to have discovered something strange just now. He turned his head to look at the sky again to confirm. Then, Lan Guanghong, who had superb eyesight, saw the naked humanoid Frio falling from the sky at high speed amidst the embers of the demons. Chapter 36, Revised, The Fall of the Grave. Phoenix captured 3 leaders of the outlaws in this operation, which can be said to have wiped out the old rival of the Outlaws organization and achieved an unprecedented victory. Next, we just need to wait for Dr. George to develop the Sin Seal that can separate the demons in the bodies of high-level outlaws, and peel off the demons of the leaders to turn them back into ordinary people. Before that, these three people will be under the strictest supervision at the Phoenix headquarters. However, compared with the scene of celebration on the Phoenix side, the news from Sabbath was not so good. What? The Kif statue is gone. Hearing Abe's words on the phone, Lan Guanghong frowned. In the original plan, when the battle broke out on his side, Sabbath would take advantage of the situation to secretly raid the headquarters of the outlaws and take away the Kif statue. There was no way. He was worried about this thing falling into the hands of other people. In comparison, the familiar Karasaki was more reliable, at least he could control its movements at any time, but Abe never expected that he would come up empty-handed. Are you sure? Could it be hidden by the believers who stayed behind? I'm sure. I'm a professional at this. These people really don't know where the Kif statue is. Hiss. This is troublesome. The statue will definitely not run away by itself, which means that someone took it away before the Sabbath. To be able to do this, at least two conditions are required. First, this person must have some channel to know about this operation, which may be from the desperate crowd or from Phoenix. From the fact that the other party knows that this operation is actually a trap for the desperate crowd, it is more likely to be the latter. Second, he is not human, or he has the help of demons. Abe led the team to ambush outside early, and there were also people left behind in the desperate crowd. It is not something that humans can do to take away the Kif statue from these two groups of people without anyone noticing, and even ordinary demons cannot do it. Based on the above, we can temporarily conclude that there is still an unknown black hand lurking in Phoenix. He is a demon or has a demon helper. He now holds the Kif statue. His purpose is unknown, but it is definitely not a good thing. Really? Just after solving the desperate group, another black hand popped up. How annoying. Scratching his head irritably, Lan Guanghong continued to move his hands up and down the girl beneath him. Feidia, who was lying on the bed, closed her eyes and made a cute nasal sound, and asked, "Then what should we do next?" "Let's see. I can't get involved with Phoenix. I can't just kick their headquarters down." As he said that, Lan Guanghong looked out the window at the floating Phoenix headquarters and murmured, "Just wait, no matter who that person is, there will always be chicken feet exposed." "Feidia. Have you rubbed enough?" "Ah. Oh." Lan Guanghong patted his butt and stood up. "Okay, you can rest." "Wait." Just as Lan Guanghong was about to leave the room, Feidia suddenly called out and stopped him. Seeing him turn around, Feidia leaned to the side of the bed and then reached out and patted the vacated bed. Blu-ray's red eyebrows raised. "Are you serious? Come on, today is a limited benefit." Feidia smiled coquettishly and hooked her hand at him. Yeah, then I won't be polite." Lan Guanghong rubbed his hands and rushed forward. 3 minutes later, he stared at the ceiling with a pair of dead fish eyes. "Devil! If I trust you again, I will become a dog." "What? Is my bed uncomfortable to sleep on? Doesn't it smell bad?" "Bah, come out if you can." Don't come out, you erotic idiot." After the outlaws were destroyed, people's lives returned to their former peace. It looked no different than usual. Well, after all, desperados don't appear every day. The occasional appearance of one is almost like taking shelter when an earthquake comes. People have long been used to it. Lan Guanghong is living a very comfortable life these days. There is an idle rich woman at home who takes care of the expenses, so he doesn't have to work hard to clear the dust. He can still tease or be teased. When he has nothing to do, he can go to the bathhouse or hang out on the Sabbath. It can be said that life is full of joy. However, he has not forgotten that there is a hidden mastermind behind the scenes, who may be secretly engaging in conspiracy. Happy bathhouse. In the bath. Compared to the hot springs, it is indeed more comfortable here. Lan Guanghong wiped the water drops on his forehead and asked the person next to him, "Hey sophomore, how are you doing at work recently? Don't ask master, there is really no suspicious person in my place. The sophomore who has figured out the blue light red routine said helplessly, now the top management is considering whether to disband Phoenix. How is it possible in this situation? Is there a mole? Well, that's it. After learning the news, Lan Guanghong had doubts about his speculation, is the mastermind really not in Phoenix? So where will he hide? Just as he was thinking, there was a loud noise outside. Boom! The earth-shattering explosion, like a nuclear explosion, shook the water in the pool. Lan Guanghong and the heir looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Then they quickly pulled up their bathrobes and rushed out. When they arrived at the courtyard, they immediately saw the Phoenix base floating in the air in the distance, its tail emitting billowing smoke and falling towards the ground. How is that possible? The sophomore rubbed his eyes in disbelief. After confirming that it was not an illusion, he turned and left without saying a word. Sophomore, wait. Ikki, who came to the courtyard earlier than them, saw the sophomore's reaction and hurriedly followed him out of fear that he would be in danger due to his impulsiveness. Blu-ray Red didn't go over, but took out his mobile phone and answered a call. Hey, Dr. Earth. During the phone call, although the other party tried to remain calm, Lan Guanghong still heard his anxiety. Guanghong, can you please help save someone? Your son, George. Yes, please. Karasaki was not surprised why Lan Guanghong knew about this. After all, he had been with the Igarashi brothers for a long time, so he must have known about George. Judging from the surname and age, it was not difficult to deduce the father-son relationship between them. I try my best. He could only say he was trying his best, because he didn't know what George's condition was now or whether he was still alive. After hanging up the phone, Blu-ray Red put on his belt and transformed, then flapped his wings and flew towards the falling Phoenix headquarters. Soon, he passed the pterodactyl form, carrying Ikki and Weiss, who was shouting frantically about being overloaded. This flying tomb is not completely out of control yet. Although it is falling, the remaining engines are still running, trying to make it make an emergency landing far away from residential areas. Bet my life. Save people. Kadota pulled the operating lever manually, his face was ferocious, and veins popped out on his face. Well, you have to sacrifice yourself to save most of the people. You are a man. Bang. Blu-ray Red smashed the glass and gave Kadota a thumbs up. Hold on, I'll go save people. Chapter 37, Revision. Kakurazaki is full of cooking skills. The two large engines at the rear of the base exploded. Fortunately, the internal damage was not serious. Only a few unlucky ones were injured by the impact of the explosion or were knocked down by falling objects. After going on a rampage and rescuing a few unlucky people, Lan Guanghong happened to meet the captain who borrowed his motorcycle. He also formed a team to carry out search and rescue, but now he was blocked by a pile of containers falling out of the room next to him. The way to go. Kamen Rider. Tabuchi Tatsuhiko shouted in surprise when he saw the blue light and red figure. Please help us, these. Boom. Before he could finish his words, Lan Guanghong jumped over them and kicked the containers away, clearing the way forward. Tian Yuan. Do you know where George is? Chapter 27. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Tian Yuan, who was questioned, immediately came to his senses, pointed diagonally upward and said, this direction, 2 floors up. Thank you. Time was running out and there was no time to say anything more. Lan Guanghong crossed his hands and placed them above him. Then he exerted force on his feet and crashed through the ceiling like a cannonball and flew upwards. It's amazing. After sighing, Tian Yuan withdrew his envious gaze and directed the troops behind him to continue the rescue. According to the instructions just now, Lan Guanghong quickly broke through the 2 floors physically and came to a room full of fitness equipment and Kamen Rider peripherals. Blu-ray Red. Hi. Kamen Rider Diamonds. George Karasaki, who was holding a big bag and stuffing night figures into it, his eyes lit up when he saw the blue light red coming to the rescue. It's just the right time. Quick, help me collect the belt over there. Blu-ray Red. Are you kidding me? This base is crashing and you're here picking up toys? Come on. What a toy, this is my treasure. George and old Karasaki pushed up their glasses in exactly the same way. Anyway, if you don't want to help, please get out of the way, I don't need your rescue. George said this with confidence. As the chief scientist of Phoenix, he has already built multiple escape systems for himself, which are enough to deal with various emergencies. Unfortunately, I don't know about Blu-ray Red. Bang. He struck George unconscious with a slap on the back of his neck, dragging his limp body and shaking his head helplessly. The first meeting with Karasaki's son was not a smooth one, however, at least he saved the person, so Karasaki can feel at ease. Not long after, brothers Ikki and Dair joined the rescue team. With the joint efforts of the group, they finally rescued all the people still alive in the base. Boom! The Phoenix base suddenly crashed into the sea, setting off turbulent waves, and violent waves crashed towards the shore. However, the Phoenix members standing on the shore did not hide. They braved the waves and watched the base sink to the bottom of the sea. The leader was Commander Wakabayashi. Cough, cough. Even in the casualty area far away from the coast, George was inevitably splashed with seawater. He was not injured and woke up faintly after coughing twice. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw the last tail of the base sinking. George. No. He held his head in pain and cried out in grief. Roland turned around and glanced at him in surprise. Well, Dr. Karasaki is not as heartless as he usually seems. He still cares about Phoenix. Commander Wakabayashi didn't know that George was just feeling sorry for his babies who sank with the base. Humph, that's outrageous. Lan Guanghong also glanced at George, and then continued to say to Ihue beside him, ask the sophomore for the reason tonight and then tell me. That's it, I'm leaving first. After saying that, he patted Ikki on the shoulder and fled. Huh. Weiss touched his chin and looked at the blue-red figure and wondered, why is he so anxious? It's suspicious. What nonsense are you talking about, Weiss? How could the master be suspicious? Ikki patted Weiss on the back of the head, then released the transformation and prepared to comfort the disappointed sophomore. Soon after, Blu-ray Red and Faria's nest. Henshin. Blu-ray Red fingers flipped the card over, then inserted it into the belt, and finally pushed both sides with both hands to close it. Kamen Rider, Decade. Oh, that's amazing, it's just like the real thing. Lan Guanghong took off the painted and modified belt around her waist and praised it with a happy face. Faria, who had her arms behind her head and her legs raised on the coffee table, gave him a look of disdain. So, you've haired all the babies? Nonsense, how can this be called Mao? This. It's called borrowing, right? Really, when will you pay back what you borrowed? Faria looked at the figures and belts on the floor and inadvertently caught a glimpse of a familiar little doll. Huh. This. She got up from the sofa and ran over to squat down. She picked up the doll on the ground. The heavy and slightly cold feel in her hand showed that the material used to make this thing was definitely not an ordinary material. No wonder George dared to throw it directly into his pocket without fear of damage. It turned out that it was not because he was in a hurry, but because these things were of excellent quality. Faria played with it for a while, then held up the doll and asked Lan Guanghong, now, do you think this is the knight who looks very similar to you? Oh, black. Blu-ray Red took it and looked at it carefully, and found that the workmanship was extremely fine, and the joints were wrapped with special materials, making it look like a shrunken knight. He picked up several other dolls and looked at them. They were all equally fine in workmanship, with no corners cut at all. Even the details in the compound eyes were clearly visible. Hi, are they all handmade? Lan Guanghong took a breath, shocked by George's cooking skills. In this case, it is not incomprehensible for him to be so sad on the beach. Find a chance to return it to him. After all, I'm not a devil. Lan Guanghong finally made a difficult decision. If it were an ordinary mass-produced toy, then it would only be gross, and the worst-case scenario would be that George would have to pay for it out of his own pocket to buy another one. However, these are obviously treasures that he has worked hard to carve, and he is not a treacherous person. If he takes these treasures as his own, Lan Guanghong will feel uneasy. after putting these things away again, Icky's phone call happened to come. "Master, I roughly understand Phoenix's affairs." "Oh, what happened?" "It was Ortega who escaped, and I don't know why he still had Keefe's seal in his hand. That guy used the Keefe seal to transform some of the team members into powerful demons, causing them to self-destruct and destroy the engine, which led to the fall of Phoenix." "What? Keefe's seal, that something strange has appeared again. One more thing. The government needs to be held accountable for what happened today. Commander Wakabayashi may be pushed out to apologize. I was so angry that I smashed all the TVs at home." Blu-ray read. Chapter 38, Revision, Transformation Under the Sun. To sum up, due to my negligence, Phoenix suffered heavy losses, and I would like to sincerely apologize to everyone. On the screen, Wakabayashi bowed to the camera, and then slowly straightened his spine, with no trace of apology on his always stern face. "From now on, I will resign as Commander-in-Chief of Phoenix, and future affairs will be handed over to the new commander." After saying that, Wakabayashi turned around and left the stage. Then, a sinister-looking old man came on stage and stood where Wakabayashi had just spoken. "Good afternoon everyone, I am the new Commander-in-Chief of Phoenix, Hiro Akashi." Akashi put his hands on the table with an evil smile on his face. Blu-ray Red didn't listen at all to what was said next. This guy has the words, "I am a bad guy," written all over his face. There is definitely something wrong with him. Well, he does have a problem. Karasaki next to him raised his eyes. "I met him when I was in Noah. In fact, he is the general person in charge of the Devil Project, but he rarely shows up. Usually he is Dongshan. Stewardship. And..." Karasaki leaned forward, watched Akashi on the TV carefully for a while, and said with certainty, "He looked like this 30 years ago. After such a long time, he has not aged." "Huh. Why didn't you tell such a suspicious guy earlier?" "I don't know, I thought he would have died of old age long ago." Ding-dong! The ringing of the doorbell broke the tense situation in the room. After giving Karasaki another fierce look, Lan Guanghong stood up and came to the door. "Who?" "Mr. Lan Guanghong, I am Shantao Chigusa from Phoenix. I have been ordered to invite you to the new Phoenix headquarters." "What's up?" "I don't know. I was just following Commander Akashi's orders." "Oh." Lan Guanghong thought for a while, feeling that the other party probably wanted to test him. After all, as the former person in charge of Noah, he must have known about Lan Guanghong's experience as an experimental subject, but he probably didn't expect that there were people in the world who were still alive after sleeping for 30 years, and who would not change like him. An old person, just like Lan Guanghong, now wants to find out Akashi's true face. Both sides want to find out the other's details as soon as possible. That's why we got this invitation. "Okay, wait for me to change clothes." It was said that he was changing clothes, but in fact Lan Guanghong just returned to the living room and took out the belt and sin mark that he carried with him. Phalia went out to work today, so even if he holds the belt, he can't transform into Timmons, so he might as well leave it at home. "Please help me look at things until Faria or I come back." Everyone in Karasaki was shocked. "Hey! What if they are not good for you? You can go another day. It's okay." Blue Light Red bared her teeth and showed a healthy smile. "As long as there is the sun, I will never fall." Karasaki. Wait, this sounds familiar to me. Before Karasaki could remember where he had heard this sentence, Blue-Ray Hong opened the door and left. Phoenix's car was parked at the door. It was a military model with a completely light-proof back seat, sitting in the dim back car with no outside view or sound. Lan Guanghong smiled playfully. "What, are you afraid that I will know the location of your new base?" "No, it's just that our new cars are all of this model. Please forgive me." He hummed with unknown meaning, and Lan Guanghong closed his eyes to rest and stopped talking. After a long period of bumps, the car slowly stopped. Lan Guanghong jumped out of the car and looked at the surrounding environment with squinted eyes. Silent, desolate abandoned factory building, filled with an indescribable unpleasant smell in the air. Hey, this doesn't look like the Phoenix headquarters." Sorry, the new headquarters is still under construction, so I have to meet you here. Akashi, wearing a pure white command uniform, appeared from the corridor above and said with an evil smile, "First meeting, experimental subject number 071. While speaking, he waved his hand and asked Chigusa and others who had brought people to step aside. What an unpleasant name. Lan Guanghong looked at Akashi with squinted eyes. So, you are the guy behind the scenes. You took the Kif statue away, right? What's your relationship with it? Are they father and son? Huh, if you can survive today, it's okay to tell you. Akashi waved, and a figure walked out from behind him. Seeing the familiar figure in tattered green clothes, Lan Guanghong frowned. Ortega? You guy, that the enemy was extremely jealous. Facing the enemy who had destroyed everything for him, Orit didn't say much and directly took out the seal of sin and stamped it on his body. Anomalocaris, the scarlet energy condensed to almost substance enveloped Ortega's whole body. With his roar, the energy completely poured into his body, turning him into a green demon with huge spikes. The scarlet mist surged over his body. This powerful energy reaction reminded Lan Guanghong of Frio, who lost control and ran away at the Hot Spring Hotel. 4th level. An unconscious 4th level. Feel Lord Kifu's power. Akashi pointed at him, and Ortega immediately jumped down from above without hesitation and rushed towards the blue light red. Lan Guanghong turned sideways to avoid the enemy's attack. The opponent then drew out his weapon and swept it towards his chest. He quickly put his arms in front of him to block. Bang. Chapter 28. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. There was a muffled sound, and the blue light was shot into the sky like a cannonball. After crashing through the ceiling, it fell heavily to the ground, and was then buried by some rubble falling from the sky. Ahem, gone. You're quite strong. He swept away the rubble on his body, but he didn't suffer any injuries except that he looked a little embarrassed. At this moment, Akashi, who was watching the battle from above, was a little confused. As Keef's direct contractor, he has the strongest sense of demons except Keef. However, he can't feel the slightest aura of demons on Lan Guanghong. This is simply impossible, unless the other party is an ordinary person without demons. But being physically strong enough to withstand the attack of a 4th-level demon, would this be an ordinary person? And he can obviously transform into diamonds. Akashi decided to test it again. He secretly ordered to stop Ortega from continuing to attack, and shouted to Lan Guanghong, "Hey, won't you transform?" "Change, of course." Blu-ray Red stood up and dusted himself off, then looked up at the sunlight shining through the hole in the ceiling. The warm light nourished his body as always. He slowly closed his eyes, then opened them suddenly, then clasped his hands and placed them on his chest and side of his face. The power of the Imperial Stone was instantly awakened, and a crimson flash of light appeared on his waist. After the Emperor's Stone was activated, he changed his posture and placed a fist on his side with one hand, and raised the other hand flatly, slowly crossing it in front of his eyes. Henshin. Crimson and blue light burst out from the Imperial Stone at the same time, illuminating Akashi, Ortega, and Chigusa and the others who were standing at the edge. They couldn't help but cover their eyes. Soon after, the light dissipated, and everyone present immediately lowered their arms and looked at the Black Knight standing in the sun in surprise. Kamen Rider. Lan Guanghong slowly raised his head and recited his other name firmly. Black. Chapter 39. Revision. Simple Night Fist. Hot white steam spurted out from the edge of the hard, carapace-like skin, and his eyes lit up with red light. Another Kamen Rider Black, who has a very different appearance from the black hero of the Showa period, but has the same origin, takes the initiative to show his true form here. What is that? Akashi frowned. Even though he had completely transformed into an inhuman form, he still could not detect the demonic aura on the other party, that is to say, not a demon, but a completely unknown life form. While he was thinking, he did not forget to send instructions to Ortega to continue fighting. After receiving the order, Ortega's eyes flashed green, and he raised his weapon and pointed it at the Black Knight in front. Several sharp thorns quickly grew on the umbrella-shaped weapon in his hand. With a few screams that tore through the air, the sharp thorns broke away from the weapon and shot towards the target. Lan Guanghong did not dodge or evade, and raised his chest to welcome the attack. He only heard a crisp sound of ding-rang-rang. These spikes could not penetrate his hard armor at all, and fell to the ground feebly. There was only one thorn that was too tricky and evil, and was caught by Lan Guanghong's hand. Ha! He glanced at the spike in his hand in confusion. Fever. Boom! All the thorns suddenly exploded at the same time like missiles. The blazing fire instantly buried the blue light and red, and then smoke and dust spread everywhere, quickly filling the entire abandoned factory. Ha ha ha! Ha 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 ha! Ortega laughed wildly and mocked, "What a Kamen Rider, he's just a brainless idiot." Whore. Really? Ha! Ortega immediately became silent like a duck being pinched by the neck. Pat, pat. Slow and heavy footsteps sounded, and Lan Guanghong slowly walked out of the thick smoke without a single scratch on his body. Akaishi's pupils shrank. What a strong defense. It can survive such an explosion without any damage. Even I can't do that. The defense is so strong. What about the attack? That he grabbed the railing with both hands and focused more on the battle below, as if he knew what Akaishi was thinking. Lan Guanghong reached out and stroked the remaining soot on his chest, looked at Ortega who subconsciously took a step back, and said in a deep voice, "Next, it's my turn. Don't even think about it." Ortega raised his weapon and swung it towards him without any sense of martial ethics, with red light flashing in his eyes. Lan Guanghong raised his leg and kicked first, then kicked Ortega's wrist first, kicking his weapon backwards. This kick not only removes the opponent's weapon, but also knocks him off balance. Lan Guanghong took the opportunity to grab a huge horn on Ortega's lower jaw, then raised his right hand from bottom to top and slashed hard on his horn. Click. The giant horn snapped in response. Ouch! After being hit hard, Ortega quickly covered the wound and retreated. Almost in a moment, surging magic power poured into the injured area, replenishing the horn. But he definitely didn't want to experience the severe pain that penetrated his bones again. Seeing that the other party had such abnormal recovery ability, Lan Guanghong not only did not feel troubled, but his eyes turned red with excitement. Oh! It grew back so quickly. I like you a little bit now, Ortega-senpai. Ortega, what do you want to do? As the footsteps of blue light and red approached, Ortega couldn't contain the fear in his heart and stepped back step by step. From the looks of it, if it weren't for the restraint of Akaishi, he would have definitely turned around and ran away by now. After a while of you advancing and I retreating, blue light red suddenly accelerated and almost instantly stuck in front of Ortega. The other party immediately shouted in fear, "Don't come over here." Crack, crack, crack. Ah! This beating made Ortega feel so painful that he would rather die than live. He wanted to escape, but he couldn't. Not far away, Chigusa, who had been hiding in the corner of the factory, was dumbfounded. A fourth-level demon, just like this? He was not this weak before. So it was actually because blue light red was too strong that it showed such a one-sided suppression. Hiss, is it too late for me to jump back to the human camp now? Too late. Blue light red picked up the horn on Ortega's head that had shrunk a lot and threw him out. The warriors who used the Kif Sin seal to harm Phoenix, many of them died when the base fell. He clenched his fists and placed them on his waist, and the belt on his abdomen lit up. Unforgivable. Ortega, the flames from the explosion just now burst up, rushing towards Lan Guanghong's body like a dancing elf. In a few seconds, the burning flames were all absorbed by him, and his right hand was covered with a layer of energy flowing like magma. Rider Punch. The simple name of the move contains terrifying power. Seeing that the knight's fist was about to hit Ortega's body, a strong sense of crisis enveloped Chigusa's heart. Her pupils shrank and she shouted, "Run!" Boom. The fist force exploded, causing an explosion several times stronger than Ortega's attack. Chigusa and others who ran out of the factory subconsciously fell to the ground. The next moment, they only felt hot wind blowing behind them, and then the world spun. When they came to their senses and looked back, there was no abandoned factory building, only a ruin emitting a burnt smell and burning sparks. Great, so awesome. Chigusa stared at the black figure standing in the middle of the ruins and murmured in a daze. Lan Guanghong looked around for a while, and finally sighed helplessly. "Tsk, he ran away." Of course it wasn't Ortega who ran away. After being hit by the knight's fist head-on, he had been blown away by the wind like the surrounding smoke and dust. He was talking about Akashi. The reason why he abused Ortega so badly in the previous battle was to try to provoke Akashi to do the same. Unexpectedly, this guy was cunning and treacherous. Even if he lost a high-level combat power like a 4th-level demon, he would not take risks. However, it was not a complete loss. At least Lan Guanghong knew that his combat power was probably higher than Akashi, which made the other party retreat without fighting. "Humph, Akashi, you saved your life." Lan Guanghong clapped his hands and prepared to cancel the transformation and go home. At this moment, several vehicles of the same model as the military vehicle that brought him here hurriedly drove over, and a group of Phoenix warriors jumped out of them. "Don't move." The two leaders raised their guns and aimed at Lan Guanghong, the only non-human figure in the field. Lan Guanghong. It was Hiromi Kadota and Ryuhiko Tabuchi. They were old acquaintances. "Chigusa, are you okay?" Tabuchi asked Chigusa, who was still lying on the ground. I'm fine." She was confused, not knowing whether to help Lan Guanghong explain and take this opportunity to jump back to the human side. As a result, before she opened her mouth, Lan Guanghong said first, "I should have told you that I hate people pointing guns at me the most." Hearing this voice, Tabuchi turned his head in surprise, and his hands holding the gun trembled slightly. Could it be Mr. Lan Guanghong? Chapter 40, Revised, George's Rebellion. "Shoot, that guy is the enemy." After struggling to the end, Chigusa still chose to go all the way. In her cognition, no matter how powerful Lan Guanghong is, he is just a warrior. After years of planning, Akaishi has completely controlled the political world and has now become the commander of Phoenix. It can be said that he is the uncrowned king behind this country, not to mention that he is also an extremely powerful demon. Since she saw the power of Akaishi that day and listened to the ideal he expounded, she was shocked that she had no will to resist and could only obey. Such a person cannot be defeated by a warrior with only brute force. That's right. Everything I do is for the future of mankind. So, attack. Why are you just watching? He attacked Commander Akaishi. Chigusa shouted anxiously, but Mentian and Tianyuan did not attack as she thought, and even lowered the muzzle of the gun, but their eyes wandered between her and Lan Guanghong. Chapter 29. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chigusa. We are comrades in arms at the same time, and you don't believe me? You would rather believe that an unknown person just saved you. Oh, by the way, he saved you when Phoenix crashed. Chigusa, who had secretly taken refuge in Akaishi and was not at the base on the day of the crash, suddenly remembered that these two comrades, and even most of the people behind them, had been saved by Lan Guanghong. Speaking of which, whether the blue light and red were Timmons' business or Akaishi took the initiative to say it. Originally this was to pave the way for the next plan, but he didn't expect that the first step would be a failure. The original plan was to use Ortega to cause the demon to defeat Timmons, and the Phoenix personnel enthusiastically rescued and finally forced the demon back. Kadota and the others were actually deliberately arranged to witness this scene. In this way, Akaishi can openly call it rescue, but it is actually capture. Unfortunately, he had calculated that blue light red would keep the appointment, and he also knew that Timmons' strength could not defeat the 4th level. But he never expected that the other party would lift the table and turn into an unknown creature that even he was frightened by, so in the end, Akashi escaped. Chigusa was numb, and even Kadota and others didn't know what they were going to do. Looking at the confused group of people, Lan Guanghong chuckled and said, So humans are really interesting. Well, I'm very happy today, so I won't hold you accountable for pointing a gun at me. It won't happen again. After that, he waved to everyone, ciao. Without waiting for the other party to speak, Lan Guanghong jumped up high and disappeared from everyone's sight in a few ups and downs. Kadota retracted his outstretched hand, turned around and asked, Chigusa, what exactly happened here? Chigusa bit her lips and didn't say a word. On the other side, Akashi, who returned to the temporary base, rubbed his gloved right hand and pondered about the blue light. The origin is unknown, the power system is unknown, and the combat power is at the 4th level, even above me. His eyes flashed. It seems that we need to pay more attention to it and formulate a special response plan. After thinking for a while, he pressed the pager on the table and said, "Call Dr. Karasaki over." After a while, the listless Dr. Kakurazaki came to the office. "Hi, what are your orders, Commander?" Akashi. "What's going on with this dead dad look? Was the sinking of the base such a big blow to him?" "Forget it, as long as I can still work." "Dr. Karasaki, do you remember Blue Light Red?" "Well, what's wrong with Timon's human body?" "I have a video here, take a look first." With that said, he picked up the remote control and turned on the projector, playing the video of today's Blu-ray Red vs. Ortega, which was captured with the invisible camera he carried. "Oh, this is what he looks like in person." George looked at the blue-red handsome face casually, even with some hostility. "Yep, it's just a transformation to fight a demon. What's there to see? Even if this demon is stronger." "Kamen Rider, Black, George." "What?" He threw himself in front of the screen and stared at Kamen Rider Black's figure with wide eyes. "Well, although the appearance is quite different, it does have Black's characteristics, and this fighting method, is so brutal, but I like it so much." The video ends with a night punch. At this point, George was convinced that this Black was the Kamen Rider he knew. Hi. He grinned, and his hands pressed against the wall trembled slightly. Looking at George's appearance, Akaishi's heart moved. "Dr. Karasaki, do you know this unknown creature he turned into?" Of course George knew him. Kamen Rider is a tokusatsu drama that he has watched with his father since he was a child. From childhood to adulthood, from number 1 to King of Time, he has watched it all without missing an episode. As for the collection of Kamen Rider peripherals, there are countless of them. Later, they all developed to the point where they disliked the poor quality of the official products and directly made them by themselves, in addition to wanting to surpass his father's mood in making the Levis driver and the double-sided driver. The idea of making the Kamen Rider himself also occupied a large part. He even has a wish, which is to create a knight in his lifetime that is exactly the same as the one in the tokusatsu drama, both in appearance and performance. Now, a living idol appeared in front of him. How could he not be excited? "Sir Akashi, you don't know, it's nothing." The excited George suddenly calmed down, adjusted his glasses and asked, "Do you want me to analyze the ability data of this creature, Akashi?" "Yes, I need." "I understand, let's analyze it now." Before he could finish speaking, George directly picked up the projector and quickly left the office. Looking at George, who suddenly became very energetic, Akaishi looked puzzled. After thinking for a while, he turned on his computer and searched for Kamen Rider and came up with a lot of news about Timmons and Levis. Akashi pondered for a while, then typed the name Black on the back. 2 hours later, Akashi. "Damn it, are there really such buggy beings in the world? It's basically impossible to kill him. If he dies, he will most likely evolve into a stronger form. How to deal with this? No, these are fake. There is no way this knight really exists." Akashi shook his head and pressed the pager again. "Call Dr. Karasaki again." This time, he waited for a long time and saw no one. Finally, the person responsible for conveying the order hurried into the room and reported to Akashi, "Commander Akashi, Dr. Karasaki is missing." After a pause, the man continued, "He also took away all the results and data. Maybe, he probably rebelled." Akashi. Hiss. He grabbed his hair irritably. "Send all your hands out and be sure to capture him." "Yes." After the messenger went out, the sound of breaking cups and someone's roar came from the closed door. Chapter 41, Revision. Another Timmons. On the street, 2 groups of people from Phoenix met at an intersection. "How's it going? Did you find the target?" "No." "Damn it, where did you go?" After a brief exchange, Phoenix's team members quickly left here and walked towards the next street. They didn't notice a single guy eating a hamburger among the couples in a nearby fast food restaurant. "Siete, you are following so closely." George, who was wearing youthful clothes and with a mushroom head, subconsciously adjusted his glasses, but they were in vain. George, he now felt that he had gone a bit hastily. if we continue to stay in Phoenix and wait for the right time before suddenly running away, things will go much smoother. Now, I have run away anyway, so let's take it one step at a time. After all, it's just a job in Phoenix. It's not as important as joining an idol. After finishing his burger in silence, George put his bulging school bag on his back and walked out of the fast food restaurant in silence. Go through 2 more streets and you'll reach the Happy Bathhouse. If I can get there, I'll definitely see you. Minami Kotaro. Just as George lowered his head and moved forward cautiously, a strange voice suddenly came from the front. Stop. George. He raised his head with luck and looked at the man standing in the middle of the road ahead like an ignorant person, only to find that the other person was staring straight at him, exuding undisguised malice. Oh ha, it's exposed. Hand over the backpack. The man pointed at George and shouted sternly. Hi, relax. George raised his hands and looked around, finding that this was the only person blocking the way. The corner of his mouth couldn't help but raise an evil smile. Humph, you dare to face me alone. You probably don't know that I, Kakurazaki, have never given up on exercising in addition to scientific research. In order to prepare for the moment when I become a Kamen Rider in the future, let me show you the power of my powerful body. I haven't seen you in Phoenix. Are you new? George pretended to be friendly and said hello, slowly approaching him with his feet. The other party did not answer, but also strode towards George. Closer, that's it now. George narrowed his eyes slightly, suddenly retracted his hand and punched out. Bang. This punch hit the opponent firmly, but the man still stood firmly on the spot. On the contrary, George's expression changed drastically. He felt as if his fist had hit a hard stone, and a sharp pain came back from his hand. Damn it, this guy is not human. George reacted instantly and wanted to retreat immediately. However, after he took the initiative to approach the enemy, it was already too late to run away. The opponent used a lightning-fast backhand to stamp a palm on his abdomen. The huge force contained in this palm directly sent him flying backwards. The zipper of the backpack behind him also burst open with a stab, revealing the sin mark inside. It fell out like a goddess scattering flowers. Along with the sin seal, there were 2 belts, one of them is the Levis drive. In order to make a sin mark that can separate 3rd-level demons, George temporarily asked for Iki's belt and sin mark back. The other one is the same as the one in Blu-ray Red's hand, the Timmons drive. This drive is a legacy left by his father and the origin of his research on the Kamen Rider system that uses demonic power. Thump. George fell to the ground and rolled twice. Severe pain hit his whole body, making him unable to move for a while. The sound of the fight between the 2 alarmed the people on the street. Soon, the people present ran out of the street in fear, leaving only the mysterious man looking down at George, who fell to the ground. TSK, can't you run away? George rolled over as hard as he could so that he was facing the sky. Chapter 30. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. The past scene seemed to emerge from the sky, the happy times with his father, the excitement of developing the night system for the first time, and the blue light red who could transform into Kamen Rider Black. Hey, isn't this little Kazaki? I haven't seen you for a few days. How come you were beaten like this? Blue light red squatted in front of George and licked the cone in his hand. George stared at him speechlessly, with a trace of blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. What? You want to eat it too? It's a pity that this can't be given to you. Blue light red stuffed the cone into his mouth in 2 or 3 bites, then stood up and walked past him, and greeted the mysterious man. Faria, help take little Kazaki to a safe place. I know, really, it's hard to come out, and someone messes up again. Faria, who also held a cone, appeared from behind, pulling George's collar with one hand and pulling him back. George. Ah! My back! Both people in the field ignored George's screams. Lan Guanghong crossed his arms and looked at the person in front of him. After confirming that it was a face he had never seen before, he asked in confusion, "What are you, cough, what is this thing?" Lan Guanghong, who almost made a flag, changed his words in time, and couldn't help but sweat in his heart. It was a close call, he almost said the taboo words. I am Azuma, Nan Kotaro, I will judge you. Before he finished speaking, Azuma stepped forward quickly, and the black figure rushed towards him with a strong wind. Lan Guanghong. Without time to refute, his pupils shrank, and his hands protected his chest to defend against the attack. The next moment, with a bang, Lan Guanghong only felt a huge force coming, his arms were immediately beaten sore and numb, and his feet couldn't help but retreat again and again. After the inertia subsided, the severe pain came from his arm. Lan Guanghong grimaced and shook his hand, looking at Azuma who had landed. After the opponent succeeded in the attack, he stood still, just looking at Lan Guanghong with a cold face, like a cold-faced killer. However, Lan Guanghong keenly discovered that the corners of this guy's mouth were twitching slightly, and his legs were shaking all the time. The hardness of his body was completely beyond Azuma's expectations, so that the opponent's active attack was injured in the leg, and the series of attacks that were originally considered good could not be continued. His who, Azuma secretly exhaled, then raised his finger and pointed at Blue Light Red and said loudly, "You guy, you are really not a human." Blue Light Red was furious when he heard this. "Bah, you are not a human. I know, you are an accomplice of Akashi." Azuma did not admit it, but just said to himself, "No need to quibble, that kind of physical strength is definitely not within the scope of what humans can achieve. You are not human." Azuma denied Blue Light Red's human identity with a firm tone, then leaned over to pick up a belt and several sin seals from the ground. Blue Light Red frowned. Demon's driver, that he heard from Karasaki that there was another demon's driver that sealed bell, but he didn't expect to see it here. You will endanger the future of mankind. The mysterious man put on the belt and pressed the sin seal, spider. I will bring down judgment, deep, drop, danger, Kamen Rider, demons. The black fog dissipated, and diamonds, who had transformed into the spider sin seal, appeared in front of Blue Light Red. Chapter 42, Revised, The Winner is Justice. You actually chose to fight as diamonds? Blue Light Red looked at diamonds, who had transformed into the spider sin seal, with interest. Speaking of which, the first battle of the nights is usually against bats and spiders, but Blue Light Red has never seen these two types of demons, but instead fought a bat-type night evil. Now with this spider diamonds, it can be said that a great tradition of the knights has been completed. Then, Henshin, light burst out from his waist, and Blue Light Red raised one hand upward, transforming into Kamen Rider Black again. The opposite diamonds was not idle either. He took advantage of Blue Light Red's transformation to stamp a series of sin seals on the belt panel: Condor, Vulture, Kamakiri, Praying Mantis, Scorpion, Bada, Locust. Genomix. After the gene mixing, wings grew on Diamond's back, sickle-like mantis claws stretched out from his hands, and a poisonous scorpion tail was waving behind him. His thighs were also stretched out a lot, twisted into the shape of locust legs. Like an alien monster, Diamond stretched out the sickle in his hand to Lan Guanghong. For hybrids. Let's see how long you can last. Lan Guanghong shook his hands, half crouched on the ground, and his arms relaxed on his knees. The two of them confronted each other on the quiet street. Soon after, a gust of wind blew, blowing the windmill on the sign not far away, breaking the silence. At this moment, the two jumped high into the air at the same time. One fist ignited with golden flames, and the other hand's sickle glowed with green light. Rider punch, clang. The fist and sickle collided in midair, making a huge sound like the sound of metal clashing, and the figures of the two knights passed by and landed at the position where the other had just stood. Timmons was the first to stand upright. He looked at the broken mantis sickle in his palm, and his physical energy surged. The next moment, the broken sickle grew again. On the other side, Lan Guanghong also slowly stood up and looked at the place with white eyes on his abdomen. The creature's carapace that originally covered it had obvious traces of corrosion, and there were still some purple remnants at the edges. But when they were fighting just now, Timmons secretly poked Lan Guanghong with his scorpion tail. If Blu-ray Red chooses to become Timmons instead of Black, then he will probably be penetrated by the armor and penetrated into the body. At that time, it will not be as simple as the outer armor being corroded. Poison. What a despicable guy. The winner is justice, no matter how you win. After Asma's serious retort, he spread his arms and rushed towards Lan Guanghong. preparing to pursue the victory. Upon seeing this, Lan Guanghong immediately closed his fists and gathered strength, preparing to face the opponent's attack. Rider! Call out! Looking at the Black Knight who was about to punch him, Timon struck him diagonally with his sickle. Under the mask, Lan Guanghong smiled ferociously, suddenly turned sideways to avoid the blow, and then turned around and kicked Timon's, just like the knight's fist just now. His feet were shining with golden fireworks. Kick. Asma. Asma, who had no time to defend herself, could only turn around as best she could and receive the kick with a stronger back boom. With one kick, he was kicked out like a cannonball, and a shock wave visible to the naked eye swayed in the air. Bang, 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 like a pebble used to float water. Timmons bounced several times on the ground, leaving several pits of varying depths before he stopped in embarrassment, and the mixed genetic weapons all over his body were disarmed. This time, I can avenge Kokurasaki. Lan Guanghong patted his calf lightly and continued, "Are you ready to face death?" "Unfortunately, I am immortal." As he said that, Asma stood up as if nothing had happened. What he said was very confident. As a direct contractor of the ancestral demon, as long as nothing happens to Keith, he will never die or even age, because strictly speaking, when he contracted with Keith, he was no longer himself. Now he is just an incarnation of Keith with self-awareness. Even if he is eliminated by blue light red here, he can regain his strength and form from Keith and be resurrected again. Immortal? Lan Guanghong looked up at the sun in the sky thoughtfully. I remember the last weirdo who said he was immortal. He was thrown into the sun and died, lived and died again. What, you want to go up and try too? Asma. He was silent for a moment, then suddenly raised his hand and released a large amount of black mist from his palm. The mist fell to the ground and quickly condensed into 4 demonic figures with the same appearance. After they appeared, they immediately roared and rushed towards Lan Guanghong. Asma followed closely behind, sealing and pushing the switch with both hands, preparing to release Timon's sure kill. When Lan Guanghong saw the attacking demon and the sealed Timon's, an evil smile appeared on his lips. He knows these things. They are the same as those ghosts released by Dongshan 30 years ago. As for how to deal with these guys, Emperor Sure has already given the answer. He just stood there unhurriedly, and when the enemy approached, he suddenly spread his hands and placed them on both sides of his belt. King's Stone Flash. The next moment, a strong blue flash burst out from the Imperial Stone. Under the illumination of this light, the 4 demons screamed and were decomposed into primitive Keef energy, floating in the air. After the demon disappeared, Asma's transformed Timmons faced this super-destructive light. The energy accumulated in his body was instantly washed away, and the kill he had originally prepared was also cracked, and that's not all. The shining power of the Imperial Stone followed the dispersed energy and chased Bell in the belt, making the demon feel like a chicken being put on the grill, being roasted until his whole body squeaked and emitted oil. I can't stand it anymore. Who are you going to fight with again? Shut up. You don't want to fall into the hands of those people on the other side again. Asma flew out again and landed on the ground, impatiently yelling at Bell. Indeed, compared to George Karasaki, who only used him as a decoration and research material, it was better to fall into the hands of his compatriots. No matter what the purpose of this compatriot is, in order to take revenge on that person in the future, he must cooperate with Asma now. Damn Junpei, for that kind of woman. Thinking of the tragic betrayal in the past, Bell was ignited with raging anger, which actually temporarily increased Timon's power. Come on, this is my last strength. Oh. Azima pulled out a sin seal and put it on his belt. The next moment, his huge wings spread out, and diamonds soared into the sky, quickly disappearing from the blue and red field of vision. Blu-ray red? Bell. Chapter 43, Revision, Descendants of the Miracle Doctor. Lan Guanghong looked at Azima's leaving figure, feeling a little melancholy in her heart. Why do the enemies I encounter always run away? Ortega is like this. And this Azuma who suddenly appeared is also like this, making people feel no sense of accomplishment. Can't you be a little more courageous like Dongshan and fight me to the death? Really, I hate these guys who have no courage at all. He changed back to human form speechlessly.